So today we're talking with Ray Lucas from Valley Chrome in Clovis, California. Ray's been an advocate for the finishing industry for many, many years and has been involved in finishing for many, many years. Ray, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join me today.
Well, Tim, it's a pleasure to do it, and I'm looking forward to doing it. So,
getting a little bit more about you. And like I said, I know I've written about you a couple times, and you and your family, and how you all got started. And I wonder if you could just kind of recap a little bit. I know this is a family business that your dad started, and it's a small shop, and you guys really, you and your family have really grown, Valley Chrome into something very big. But just take me back to when you got started in this industry.
Okay, well, just as a real quick story, my dad was a steel worker in Gary, Indiana, and he decided, hey, I don't want my kids growing up in a steel mill. So in 1961, he sold everything he owned, and we took Route 66 in a station wagon out to California. And his brother goes, hey, I know this company you can buy a third of for $12 grand. So he bought into Valley Chrome, eventually bought his other partners out, and that's how we got started. I personally got started in 1967 when one day, school was out. I was 15 years old. My dad goes, get in the truck. I go, where are we going? He's going, we're going to work. So that's kind of how I started Valley Chrome. And that summer, I kind of learned how to plate. And then a couple years later, I started a night crew with some of my friends. We'd go in there about 3:30 after school and plate universal gym equipment for 3 or 4 hours. And I was a junior in high school at that time, and kind of learned how to really run a plating line and run a crew at the same time. So, I kind of transitioned through that. And then, this is a family business, so all the brothers eventually ran that same crew. And it was great training because my dad firmly believed in get out in the back and learn the back up to the front. So all of us basically worked in every department. And, that allowed me in later years, when I got involved with the association, particularly when we were doing the merger of the three associations, that kind of allowed me to be gone, but have people backing me up. And I have to say, Valley Chrome was successful not only because of me, but for my whole family. It was truly a team effort over the years to get it done.
Right. And, you all are not so much known as a plating operation, but as a manufacturer now, right? I mean, you all made that.
That's true. We were a job shop back in the 60s. We chrome motorcycle parts, and we had a car bumper straightening department. My dad would run around all the body shops and pick up car bumpers and straighten them. And a trucker came to him in about 68 or 69 and said, hey, I only can get a 12-inch bumper on my Kenworth. Can you make me a wider one? My dad said, yeah, I think we can do that. So he started out with that one, word of mouth. We got up to 3 bumpers a day or whatever. And it got so busy around 1990 that we had some commercial accounts. I had a large account. We'd chrome a couple million trailer hitch balls a month. But we were letting all those accounts sit while we were doing our own products. And so we became, at that time, we converted from a job shop into a captive shop, and we only do our own products now.
Right. That was a big decision for you guys, right? I mean, it was there, financially you saw some things and to make this change was a big risk for you guys, wasn't it?
I'd have to say it was. And my late brother, Tom, who died of COVID, was our general manager at the time. And he brought that to us. He goes, hey, we're not making any money doing both. And we were about ready to go bankrupt. And he said, I think if we get rid of all this and focus on the bumpers, that it'll be good. And it was great. The next month we were in the black and we've never looked back. And, our production keeps going up. We have well over 200 employees now, and, good market share and business is good. Right.
Yeah. I remember at the time you told me it was too late for you to go back to to medical school. So you were going to become, making manufacturing. So
my siblings tell me I'm the dumb one of the bunch. I don't know if I'd get into medical school anyway. So
right. So like I said, talking about when you first got in, and I like to ask people about who were some of the mentors. I'm sure, like you said, you kind of learned a lot of it from your father and some other people in the industry. But going around, did you have the opportunity to go to other facilities, or I know everybody goes to trade shows now and meets people, but back in the 60s, how was it that you were able to kind of learn from some people about the
I
business?
basically learned from the people that were doing the plating in my plant. My dad did not believe in joining associations. He never joined until we took over later. I think it wasn't until the late 90s that we really got involved in the association. And one of the reasons is it's a long story of how we got into zero discharge and ion exchange, but we became known as environmentally compliant in California. And so at that time, I wanted to get more involved in the association. So I started with NAMF and worked through their chairs and eventually became their last president. Although Bob Berger claims that, but I was actually the last. And I'm still the NAMF president because we merged when that happened.
The reigning champion.
We got basically in the early 2000s, I started getting involved in the association. And, my intention was to kind of bring some stuff to the table as far as we were doing environmentally. But to my great surprise, the people that I talked to, people like Mike Kelly and Bill Sauce and Mike Sigmund and Tony Revere, to name a few, that were also presidents of the new association, NASF. I mean, these guys gave me great advice. And I thought that being in the association, the camaraderie was fantastic. Once I did become president, I did travel around to a lot of plating shops. I've probably been in a couple hundred. The years when we first merged the three associations was very difficult because each association had their own agenda. So I had to go around and give talks to plating associations and just meet with people. And that first year was very antagonistic, but we managed to work through it. And I firmly believe that they didn't vote for me to become the first NASF president because I was the smartest. There were many smarter people on the board. I was just stubborn and I could say no. So they said, okay, you're going to go do this. So anyway, I don't regret a thing. I've always said that I got more out of the association than I put into it. And I firmly believe that. I mean, I have these people that run big supplier companies that are, the prime guys, and they have always given me great advice. I still call them. I still use them. I think I've gotten way more out of it than I ever put in it.
Right. Well, let's not be remiss. You mentioned something about zero discharge. To say this, California actually gave you an award, your company an award for being so environmentally conscious years ago, which, they've got a bullseye on the plating industry, but they gave you an award. So that was something that kind of tells you what you did to really, meet their stringent codes and to be a model shop for that, right?
Yeah, we continue to do that. What we try to do every few years is bring all the regulatory agencies in and all the platers in California, and we have a tour of our facility, and then we take them to an off-site, buy lunch, let the regulatory agencies do some presentations, and that does two things. It makes us it doesn't make us bulletproof, but it makes us, these guys know that we're for real. We're doing the right thing, and they're seeing our facility. And the other thing it does is it puts these regulatory agencies together with platers that normally would be in an enforcement type situation. They get to know them ahead of time. And I've had several people tell me that was the only thing that saved them. We've done zero discharge, and we're using trivalent chrome, a couple of very environmentally friendly things. We don't landfill anything. We incinerate it. So we're trying to minimize that footprint. And I continue to do my Beyond Compliance presentations all over the country. I did one a couple of years ago in Cape Cod for those guys. I've been asked by Chicago to do one there in August, and I actually enjoy doing it. And I will still say, even when I'm doing it, I still learn things, because I'll give my presentation and somebody will come up to me. He goes, well, you're doing this way. Why don't you do it this way? It's like, man, I never thought of that. So, I'm still getting stuff back even doing it.
Right. Well, I do remember, talking about building partnerships between the plating industry and these agencies. And I remember, when you were president years and years ago, you really put together a partnership with OSHA too, right? I think it was one of the first partnerships that OSHA did with an industry to really, work together, communicate, talk, right? I mean, that was something really unique.
Our association's done a lot of that. That was one good example of things that worked. We do have the policy group has good communication with the EPA and other agencies, but it's really difficult being a metal finisher, particularly right now if you're doing hex chrome, especially in California. We're in the fight of our life right now. They're trying to put hex chrome platers of all descriptions out of business in as little as two years. So, and there's no reason for it. Our industry is a very, very small footprint of where hex chrome comes from in the state of California. But, it's the perception of plating shops that, we have to do more to get these people to kind of, back off. And it's difficult.
Right. And it's strange because you all are on the opposite end. It seems like the plating industry has really taken the lead of any manufacturers to really be environmentally conscious, to be advocates, to have these open discussions, with, one of the first groups to really get rid of, PFAS and those type of things. So it's really strange that, you guys take that hit, and you've actually been one of the most environmentally friendly manufacturing sectors around, I think.
Tim, that's very true. And the problem is the regulatory agencies, right now we're having a problem with CARB, but I would say all of them, there's two things happening. One, the people that we've met and trained over the years are starting to roll out and retire. So we're starting basically from scratch. And the other thing is the environmental people will just not leave this industry alone. No matter what we say or do, they're in attack mode 100%. So, these agencies have us on one side saying, hey, be reasonable. We're doing this. We're environmentally friendly. But we have the enviros on the other side saying, hey, these guys need to go. They're putting toxics into the environment and they're killing the children. So it's a tough fight, really is.
Right. It's funny, some of the names that you mentioned earlier. I mean, one of the questions I was going to ask you was, you've been in this for how many decades now? Five decades or six almost. Yeah. It's almost like you have your family and you got your business family, and then you've got the people that you've met in the industry, and you've gone, to conferences and things like that with them, spend a lot of time. And it really, can you talk about what the industry has meant to you? It really seems like it has really, it's something that you put a lot of heart into.
I started, back in the early 2000s with NAMF, and they told me, hey, if you're going to be on the NAMF board, we want you to go to Arizona and start an association. And I didn't know anything about starting associations. So I just started having meetings over there. And we did eventually get about 15 or 20 people. And Arizona has a large metal finishing population over there, but they don't have the environmental pressure that we have in California.
Right.
So it's kind of tough to get, people to care. But anyway, I would go around all these plating shops, and I met friends over there that I still talk to today. And, it's been like that in the whole industry. I started on the NAMF board and then was the first president of NASF. And those people that were on that board are my best friends to this day. We developed such a rapport, fighting for our industry, that, it's been one of the highlights of my life, I think, is being able to interact with these people. And it's really been good for us because, to this day, I use them for advice whenever I need to.
Right. And I guess it's good too, to have that type of peer-to-peer. I mean, these are other owners of other companies, and, it's lonely in the chair, right? Lonely at the top.
It is,
and, right. And be able to talk to some people and kind of work some ideas past them, because otherwise, you're kind of just, you're almost alone there with that as as the owner of a large organization. It must be great to have that, be able to, like I said, have that conversations with people who certainly understand what you go through every day.
Yeah, they always help. And, the other thing is it is a family business, and, the other people do as much as I do. So that, we kind of work that back and forth. But, I talk to people. I'm still on a couple committees, which I like to keep my hand in. And I've actually tried to get off one of them, and they won't let me. But anyway,
Right.
And that's, I'm kind of learning some of the new guys. I know all the old guys, but, now the NASF board, I only know a few people on there. So,
Right.
And it's the younger people. And I think that's, we did the rollover, so you can only do 6 years on there for a reason, to get people like us from hanging on there too long. But the problem is sometimes you lose the tribal knowledge.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I try and do as much of that as I can. But these people, they have no idea of what the past history is sometimes, and they'll do things that aren't necessarily in the best interest of the association as a whole.
Right.
So,
yeah. In general, it's funny. Question I always want to ask is, what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out in the finishing industry? I mean, it sounded like, when you first started out, like you said, you guys weren't that much involved, but then you became involved, and it really sort of flipped the switch for you guys. But what advice would you give somebody who's, just getting started in the industry, maybe, just out of college, and or they're managing a department, or they're into engineering in the industry? What advice would you give them?
So the first thing I probably would tell them to do is start attending a couple of the events. I would think that Surf-In would be the big one.
Mm-hmm.
And we spend, money to go to Surf-In every year. And I've always found something there that I can't find anywhere else. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
you can talk to all these companies that are exhibiting that are doing different things that you might know of. So you need to do those events, and you need to start hanging with the people. And then I think it would be, to establish a rapport like I did with my peers, get on a committee. I mean, these committees, they're not a ton of work. You have meetings every once in a while. You might get assigned something sometime, but you're meeting people that are on the same level that you are and do the same kinds of things. And
Right.
that is an opportunity that a young person should not miss.
Right. Definitely. What more do you want the industry to do? What improvements do you want the industry to do? I mean, I think, like I said, as far as regulatory, I think it's not back in the days of the 60s and 70s where there were some, wild things going on. I mean, this is but what else would you want this industry to do and accomplish maybe in the next couple of years and such?
What I've seen as far as the new people coming up is they tend not to get involved. So I would like to see more young people get involved. And also they need to, I think, our industry, and I think a lot of the bad apples in our industry have been regulated out of business, and we continue to work on our reputation. But I think, we need to do more things, kind of like I'm doing with the Enviros. That needs to be done on a larger scale, because we need to change the perception of our industry, to a more environmentally friendly. And I think that for the most part, everybody is complying now, but still there is a lot of pressure that I think if we did more would kind of help us.
Right. Looking back, my final question, looking back in your career, you've done a lot of heavy lifting for this industry. Like I said, you had the merger, right? You had to put all that together. And then, you've had some years and years where, again, and you're seeing it now where regulatory was really, really hammering this. But, looking back, some of the memories that you had, the fondest memories, I mean, what do you think some of your biggest accomplishments are? Certainly, like I said, pushing through the merger, getting things where they are today, and those type of things. What do you think are some of your fondest ones?
Well, I really liked when we had the three associations, and they kept talking about merging them, and it never really got anywhere. And we had a blackjack committee in Chicago, and there was 21 of us, and we had a coach or a facilitator come in there, and we broke that group of 21 into 3 or 4 different groups, and each one of us targeted a certain area. One might have been bylaws, or one, what is the dues structure going to look like? So we did that over the whole weekend with 21 people. And these were the top 7 people in the 3 associations. And I kind of enjoyed that. I thought we got a lot done and actually got the merger to happen. So that was really a great week. I like going to the meetings. I like going to Surf-In. We have a thing where all the past presidents get together and sit outside and have a beer and smoke some cigars and reminisce and, say how much better it was when we were running it, basically. Right. But, I just like interacting with, the people. And I think, I would have to say my biggest accomplishment was getting the NASF 1000 off the ground. And, we're in the process of refocusing that, but I still believe firmly that we need at least $1 million in the bank. We're not there yet. And, we're undergoing some, this thing with PFAS right now is really serious. We may end up spending every dime we have on that. But the NASF 1000 needs to go forward, and we need to get a war chest that, is sitting there that we can use if we need it.
Right. Well, obviously you've received almost all the top honors from the NASF and the industry, the presidential awards and I think the Terramino Award,
Yes.
and all these and everything. And really, from somebody who's only been in the industry 10 years, thank you for what you've done, because, people tend to forget the people that came before them that really, took the arrows right in the chest, sometimes. And so,
Yeah,
so thank you for that.
If
Yeah.
anybody happens to see this and they see me at an event and they want to sit down and talk about anything, I'd be
Right.
really happy to do it. I'm honored that you interviewed me, and I will say again that I got much more out of this association than I ever put in it.
Right. Well, right. Thanks for taking the time. I certainly appreciate it. We'll see you at a show soon.
Tim, and I think I owe you a beer, so remind me of that.
Two of
Two
those.
beers. Very good. All right.
All righty.